Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, to the 2.38 dev server, the first iteration. And in this video I will just give you an overlook over all the naval vessels, and there are some absolute bangers in there that I just wanted to highlight. And if I'm not missing out, I will give you the interesting Drachinifer videos in the video description down below. And I will go with the nations as following from the left to the right, and we start with the USS Tennesse. This is obviously the lead ship of its own class in its 1943 configuration, battle rating 7.0, rank 6, and it has the well-beloved 14-inch gun -50 Mark 11 guns, and yeah, they have a 40-second reload. And that's the death to all the US standard ships. And talking about US standards, this is also the last 14-inch gun standard dreadnought type, if you will, that was built in the US, and I think afterwards they switched to 16-inch guns. So I hope for the next patches that they will now go big into a bit more the modern era. Armor is of the all or nothing armor type, 343 on the belt and also on the bulkheads fore and aft. Deck is a whopping 165 over the magazines and going down to roughly 140 over the machinery. And if you have a good look, you will see that the main belt is actually on the inside of the ships with massive anti-torpedo defense systems put on there. So I'm not quite sure how accurate here the anti-torpedo protection rating is of 250. I think maybe it can take more, and also if you go on the X-ray, there is a significant different space between the outer layer and the actual magazine. So we will see how it actually will do against torpedoes, which is important because it's only 44 kilometers per hour fast. And honestly, there is not too much difference to the USS Mississippi. We have some benefits on the anti-aircraft side, as you know, in the Pacific theater it was obviously under the constant threat of Japanese aircraft, and we can see just a massive anti-aircraft suite. We have radar, we have 8 barrels of 5-inch 38 to each side, we have 10 quadruple 40mm Bofors and 43 single 20mm Oerlikons. This is massive. And have I mentioned the radar assistance and the 5-inch 38s also, in contrast to the USS Mississippi's 5-inch 25s, have also various different SAP rounds like you are used to from the USS Moffett. So this is absolutely dangerous at range in an artillery duel. It has great penetration, it's slow but you can angle it. Aircraft shouldn't be really interested in trying to get after this because they will get just swatted out of the sky. And that then brings us from a really combat-worthy battleship to something that I absolutely love, and that is the Iron Dog. SMS Derfflinger itself. Look at her. What a beautiful line. Those are IRL considered to be one of the best looking capital ships that were in service with the German Imperial Navy. And I have to agree, I mean, look at this beautiful ship, and also the camouflage here enhances it a bit in my opinion. And this is the first German battle cruiser, or in German terminology they were actually called Großkreuzer, so grand cruisers. This was the first one with a completely super firing turret array. You can see here the 4 twin 12-inch guns, 305mm, and they are fantastic because they have a 20-second reload, so they fire twice as fast as the US 14-inch guns. The ship is significantly faster with 52 kilometers per hour fully upgraded. You have heavy anti-ship secondaries, 7 per side. You have torpedoes, some AA, but it's not really AA, is it? and the hull form. I just wanna point it out, right? This is significantly different to the first German Grand Cruiser, the SMS Vondertan, which won my heart in previous patches, and also the shape of the hull. It's roughly Prinz Eugen style, and if you look here at this area, there's just that small hint of it, but that's just me. Armor is distributed armor scheme, and we have here 300 max, then we go down to 250, but still that's good. We're talking about battle rating 7.3, and just to have a quick look into the tech tree before I forget, it actually comes after the SMS Vondertan and is a worthy predecessor, in my opinion, to the Scharnhorst. Yes, it will extend the grind, but you know what I'm talking about. We have some turtleback, we have not the greatest deck protection, as I mentioned, no AA, but I think the turtleback, if you can believe this, is 50 millimeters, so that will help you, and at 6.3 you will just be the bane of anything that is a normal light or heavy cruiser, because you're just perfect for dealing with them, right? And the problem is the ship is relatively narrow, and yet there is still some room between the outer side of the hull and the actual magazine. You might run out of ammo. That's a problem with German capital ships, fast rate of fire and so forth, but it's also the first ship that has an all inline main battery, super firing turrets, no wing turrets or echelon firing turrets, so this is really helping you out in battle if you compare this to new systems. To the Vondertan, which also has 8 11-inch guns and is also a bane for normal cruisers. It's just more modern and just better. One thing that I want to highlight is the name of the thing. It was called the Iron Dog for a reason. It took part in many battles of World War I, including the Battle of Jutland, where it basically led the death rate of the German battle cruisers. It ate a lot of damage and it dished it out very well, and so it was like a bulldog that just didn't come loose of the victim. This was a relentless ship, and I absolutely recommend listening to the video from Drach, a ship that I'm really looking for. There are not many ships that I want to see more than this one. The only exception is the SMS Derfflinger. That's also one of those unkillable ships, so really looking forward. And great history, great looks, great design, great everything. 6.3, it might be really well. It might be really good. Me and my clicking. About the shells, the AP seems to be really worth. The SAP has less TNT and less penetration, so okay, but we have base use AG. That should be absolutely nasty versus everything with not really heavy protection, especially with the rate of fire. And obviously AP for the 150 millimeters or 5.9 inches. The G7s, you know, just below the torpedo threshold, so don't count on those torpedoes being absolutely awesome, but versus contemporary ships, they should be always a threat. Then we have something of a Soviet fever dream, and that is the Izmail, and it is another project. They were actually laid down but never finished, and they have 4 triple 14-inch guns, and to add insult to injury, if you look at the rate of fire, they have 29.4 seconds. That's not just faster than some 12-inch battleships from the Russians themselves, but yeah, the American dreadnoughts in the corner crying. Another thing that the ship has in common with the Derfflinger is no AA to speak of, but really heavy secondaries. 12 per side of the 130mm. They make destroyers and cruisers cry. And those guns, they look like just bigger barrels put into the 12-inch gun turret version, so there is that. Armor, that's not really good. There should be a turtleback according to the coal bunkers, if you can see the gap here, but I don't know how thick it is. I just couldn't find the external armor how it should be, but it should be 25-50mm somewhere in that ballpark. Distributed armor scheme, lots of shell catchers for those for the front part in particular. So I'm not so quite sure how survivable it is, and one drawback is that, for example, compared to the Imperatrice Maria, which has 3 turrets looking forward, here you have the rear 3 turrets all looking backwards. So in the initial stages of the battle, until you rotate those turrets, or if you switch sides and want to engage somebody else, you have to rotate all the way around. So that will be a little bit of a downside, but let's have a look at the performance of the shells. Also base use stock HE with 75 kilograms of TNT. That will hurt a lot, and for that shell type we have also an exceptionally high penetration value of nearly 200mm at 10 kilometers. That is a lot. This also will make cruisers and battleships even and destroyers cry. The 14-inch AP has significantly less penetration than for the US battleships, and it falls off to under 400mm at 10 kilometers, so you still have some quite a big advantage here in your US standards, but I'm not quite sure if the extra 10 seconds or so are really worth it. Other than this, no AA, no real torpedo protection, not really fast, no armor. I think the survivability leaves things to be desired, but again, you never know. The magazines are actually at the waterline here, so I'm not quite sure how survivable it is, and also how narrow it is at the front. So a torpedo hit here, there is not a lot of room to really absorb the explosion radius, right? And the same here at the rear. So the magazines are right at the waterline, so you live really dangerously here. And the torpedoes, yeah, you have them, but not really dangerous, and also the range is stupidly low, only 2 kilometers. And moving on, as usual, Britain gets nothing. Hooray. Then we go to Japan and they get a patrol boat, the PT-802, and it's type 1, rank 2, battle rating 2.0. It gets a 40mm at the rear, which is quite the firepower for this battle rating. We get 2 torpedoes, and we also get those 7.2-inch T-34 bomb mortars. If you can get hits, they would be hilarious, but it's nothing really outstanding, right? And the torpedoes themselves are also not really that great. There are no battleship killers, and you only have 2. Then we go to Italy, which gets nothing. And then we go to France. France gets in the Blue Water Fleet, nothing that I could see, but they finally, which is long overdue, get the Coastal Fleet. And we start with the VTB-8, which could be fast, but only has a twin 7.7 machine guns and 2 torpedoes. That is not good. There is then a premium version, which is not worth it, and the second start of the line with different torpedoes, I think. You know, those are ships that won't get played. They might be good for capturing points at the start, but it's not really good. VTB-14, same stories. The 7.7, man, that was so bad. like if it would be heavy machine guns, you know, 50 cals, 13.2s, but those ships are useless. We start with some okay-ish stuff. At battle rating 1.7, rank 2 will be quite the pain. Torpedoes, not really good. We finally get a 20mm and some heavy machine guns. So that might be a good array actually. I'm not quite sure how the frontal firing arcs are, but that could be nice. So this is a decent boat. Decent. Not great, decent. Then the MTB 96. That's a bit heavier. We also have heavy machine guns and light machine guns, but the firing angles are not that good, so you have to show broadside to bring the maximum firepower to bear. And then we get here finally some decent torpedoes. Again, decent, not amazing. So they can sink cruisers, maybe some battleships, but the mixture of range and speed is not really preferable. We get some depth charges, but also only 2. And then we get to the only rank 3 ship, which is the L9059, and that might be interesting. Those turrets, they just get me. Those are basically 88s, but they are 87.6mm ordnance, quick firing 25-pounder guns, and there are 2 of them. Now, then we have a 40mm Bofors, which is always good news, some 20mm, but it has armor. There is an armored box, you might say, you might call it a citadel, 50mm. If you angle it, you know, at range with those HE dropping things, I think they will behave more like mortars. You can see the muzzle velocity 533 in quick naval battles with where other patrol boats just are really quick in maneuvering. They just will dodge the shells. And then the AP is solid shot. That's so bad, it's actually almost British. But you have shrapnel protection, so it might be even worth reversing with it. I'm not kidding. Reversing with the 40mm and you clean house. It's slow. If you upgrade it, maybe 30-ish kilometers per hour. Might be interesting for 2.7, but there is too much stuff that just will kill you outright, despite the armor. Then the VLT1. One thing, I think it's not visible, but it will be really expensive, and it's basically the sister ship to the premium. So we have 2 40mm and 2 torpedoes, and that's it. It's quick, it's okay, 3.7, but if you have this premium, which is more heavily armed, why would you pick the VLT1? It's not really worth grinding. The La Combattante costs you 250,000 of RP for rank 5, battle rating 4.0. And the only unique thing are the SS-11 naval rockets. I mean, look at the launcher. That's actually hilarious. You have 2 40mm, you have some heavy machine guns, and then those launchers. The question is if you have the time in naval forces to guide those things in. If you are in cover and in a cap, maybe lob them over an island. Yeah, but I'm not quite the fan of it. So if this is worth grinding through all those atrocities to free-to-play gaming tech tree arrangements, you're welcome. But for me, this is not an exciting tech tree so far. It's very barren, if you know what I'm talking about. But this is also the chance to get into it and grind quite a bit to have then access to maybe later additions. But you know, that's just a lot of patience and passion for the French naval fleet. have the reserves, have something to quickly get into the cap, and that's basically the main effort done for the French coastal fleet. Nothing really exciting. I would almost call it bad, but that's just me. Not all hope is lost though. This is just the first iteration of the dev server 2.38. Everything is subject to change, and maybe there will be some further additions. So far, the highlights for me are the SMS Derfflinger, which is just... I'm actually looking forward to it. And also to try out this bad boy here again, which has some serious firepower and armor and AA. And, you know, that's just the defining factors of a modern battleship, quote-unquote modernized battleship. And yeah, it will be quite relaxing to lob down devastation every 40 seconds. And that's it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Again, check the videos from Drach as links in the video description down below or in the comment section. Let me know if you liked this presentation, just to give you a quick rundown of the most important informations about the upcoming naval vessels. And we'll see each other again after you gave this video a like and pressed subscribe. We'll see each other on the battlefields, in the skies, and on the waves of War Thunder.